Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of Talktainmentradio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalktainmentRadio.com.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of Talktainmentradio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalktainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty. Welcome to TalktainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. This is a show that we're going to answer your Gmails today. Today being when this program will be broadcast on the 29th of January. So Mr. Fuller will answer the questions that I have here. And if you need more information, you can go to Mr. Fuller's website at producejustice.com. Here, let me get myself together here. Okay, there we go. So let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And as always, we like to start with the program by saying, good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, you are still learning. Okay, we're going to, the title of this particular program, Mr. Fuller, is called Produce Justice. And what we're going to do is have you speak about, your book and get into what produce justice means. So we're going to start off by doing some some Gmails here, and let's see here if I can find the oldest one that I have here. Okay, first of all, listeners, I'd like to thank you for your listenership. Okay, now guess what? Excuse me here for those of you who are on the YouTube channel. By the way, yeah, you can pick up the program by looking at the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, then I think it's Talktainment number 2, then scroll down to radio, and you are there. And you can also go to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you can get the program. And you can go to, I was going to say you can go to Mr. Bobby, 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and that there you can get you can write your Gmails there, and I will answer that. Excuse me, I'm looking into the microphone, and my producer doesn't like that. So wait a minute, let me get my eyes because I can't see without them. Okay, just one moment, please. Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's see here. This is hot off the Gmails here. Okay. This comes from Mr. Reeves. Mr. Fuller, he says, Mr. Fuller, I've heard you say it is difficult for a non-white person, or shall I say a prisoner, to be loyal to another prisoner. he says, for instance, Harriet Tubman must have had a great loyalty from the prisoners she removed from greater confinement. And in situations where she didn't have complete loyalty, it is said that she used violent measures to make them cooperate. But is there a difference between being loyal due to circumstances beyond a prisoner's control versus betrayal due to greed, ego, and circumstances within their control? Mr. Fuller, how do we deal with being betrayed by another non-white person? What tools can we use not to not develop a deep-seated hatred toward one another, non-white person, when we feel betrayed?
Because of the system of white supremacy itself. That's the whole thing of understanding white supremacy. I was just thinking this morning, and I wrote a note to myself that I think that was going to endure, and that is everything that I have ever done has been a pitiful reaction. And I put that pitiful reaction like PR, like public relations. I call it pitiful reaction in capital letters. And the complete statement is everything I have ever done has been a pitiful reaction to the system of white supremacy, racism. And that's true. That's the core of everything that happens. Everything that has ever happened to me, everything that I see that's happening to everybody that's going around. It may not seem that way on the surface, but when you strip it down, we react to things, to circumstances, because we're forced to react as prisoners of war to our circumstances. So there shouldn't be any anger connected with that at all from one black person, one prisoner of war, to another, even though that would be the first reaction, or maybe the in-depth reaction for a long period of time. But in the giant scheme of things, why did the person do what that person is doing in the first place? If the person is subject to a system that produces injustice 24/7. So once a person understands that, and you gave the illustration of Harriet Tubman, which I have problems believing that. I think that's a part of the white supremacist scheme too, to get black people to go at each other. I never heard that story about Harriet Tubman years ago, but since people started talking about Harriet Tubman and talking about her being on one of the currency bills in place of people like Andrew Jackson, then I started hearing Harriet Tubman made those black people at gunpoint because they were giving her all kinds of problems. I mean, and trying to harm her and whatnot, and what she was doing. So she had to actually enslave them in order to get them to run off. I doubt that seriously because I don't think that, it would be practical. That's number one. I mean, you think that here's a little woman, and she's carrying maybe a old rusty pistol. They would probably fire one or two shots and then no more. I mean, where's she getting gun and ammunition from to do all this and be carrying it around all day, watching 10 or 15 or maybe 5 or 6 even black males going through the woods? That doesn't add up at all. I doubt the credibility of this. There might have been 1 or 2 incidents, and even that story probably wasn't, even if it was just 1 incident, that story probably wasn't told like it actually happened. It was probably about something else altogether. It wasn't about the person didn't want to go. It was probably about something else. So you always have to take all of this type of thing, with great doubts. In fact, all history, and I've said this earlier on other programs here on TalkTameItRadio.com, I've said it, that all of history, when, the history of slavery itself, the details of it, will never really be told. I mean, the conditions on the ships, that story can never be actually photographed because there were no photographs there.
Yes.
But if there were photographs there, if they try to make a movie about the conditions on those slave ships, I would say it's impossible.
Yes, sir.
To really capture what it was really like. I look at it, here's all of these clean people with nice teeth and all like that, and like they've been to the dentist, I mean, a long time ago and got pristine. No, slaves, no way. No way. And the people, the condition of the people when they got off the boats, I mean, you look at their clothes. Are you kidding? What clothes? Number one, I mean, if they had any at all, and if they had some, my goodness, it didn't look like they just came out of the department store like you see in the movies and all that. There's no way to capture the conditions, even on the plantations, of what it was really like. No way. Gone with the Wind, I don't care what kind of movie you make. There's no way that you can make a movie that comes anywhere close to what it was really like. I mean, the broken teeth and all like that. I mean, the after being beaten and whatnot. My goodness, the filth.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not digressing.
No. You're not. No.
But I'm saying this is all a part of the giant scheme right up to this very minute.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of unfortunate things that are happening.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned betrayal. Actually, it's a pitiful reaction. That's the way I put it. All of these so-called betrayals are pitiful reactions to the system of white supremacy. It's pitiful. And they are reactions. They are reactions to the system of white supremacy. You might have to dig a little bit to see what is, what the person is really reacting to, or what, everybody involved is reacting to. But if it's black people doing anything, they are really reacting to their conditions that are forced upon them on account of the circumstances of the greatest force, political and religious force that the world has ever seen in recorded history, and that is the system of white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
And right to this moment, every black person on the planet has to realize that.
Yes, sir. Okay, so that...
We're just reacting to the system of white supremacy. That's what we're doing, because we're forced to. See, that's a force. That's not an option. That's a force.
Okay.
And I understand that.
Okay.
And so that's why I wrote it this morning. Everything I have ever done has been a pitiful reaction, and I want to emphasize that, to the system of white supremacy itself.
Okay.
Pitiful. It really is. It's pitiful. It's absolutely pitiful.
Okay. To get this straight so that everybody understands, most of the pictures or movies or whatever we've seen about slave ships and all that kind of stuff is made up of Hollywood. Like you mentioned about the teeth being cleaned and all that. It was totally different. Bloodshed, bloodied, bruised, beaten up, and all that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, and just the overall conditions themselves. I mean, even when you depict the white sailors on the ships, I've seen movies. They got these starched collars and whatnot. Oh, come on. No way. No way. I mean, they didn't go to the cleaners that weekend. What are you talking about? I mean, these people looked awful. Everything was about it, was awful.
Okay.
Right. I'm talking about even the white sailors who were cracking the whips and whatnot.
Okay.
They didn't have any polished boots.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this here. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's two that I'm going to share with you. Wiggins World and All in Our Family. Now, these two particular shows are exclusive to the Talktainment Radio family, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage and click on programs. There's dates, and I believe there's times up there. Click on the programs that you want to see. As a matter of fact, they are in different categories, so you have a choice of selections that you can view, and click on one and give a sample of the program that you would like to listen to. You can hit a like, a subscribe if you want to. The choice is yours. But it's all from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are talking about produce justice. And let me emphasize on this particular program, which is airing on the 29th of January. We're not taking any phone calls this particular program. And if you would like more information about it, go to Mr. Fuller's website, which is also the website where you can do all the purchasing, and that is producejustice.com. Producejustice.com, and he'll have more to say about that at the 45-minute mark. Mr. Fuller, a question came up in a discussion earlier this week about your time in the service. Now, I know that you have spoken about this many times, but it was requested that you speak about your time in the service and why you decided to write the book. There are some that are new to the program that haven't heard your explanation or even know about your service times in the Army and I believe in the Air Force. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that came up. So could you briefly describe that, and then why you decided to write this book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept?
Well, I was always interested in the race problem because I was forced to be, and but it was only in 1957 when I was in Japan on a radar site, and the Little Rock crisis had just been going on for a little while there. I mean, the Central High School, the 9 students.
In Arkansas, right?
Right.
Yes.
In Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
And we were getting transoceanic radio reports about the sketches of what was going on there. And so I intentionally took an interest in this whole thing about school segregation. And then I started thinking about looking around while I was in Japan at the time on a radar site. And I started saying, this whole thing is not just Little Rock, Arkansas. I mean, or New York City, or Alabama, or Mississippi. This whole thing is about something worldwide. Because I had always thought, going back to the 1940s, I always had a gut feeling that this thing called racism is worldwide. And reading about, what was going on in China and what was going on in India, and I heard just vaguely at that time about a man named Gandhi. We didn't know much about him. They didn't teach about him in my school. They didn't mention his name. And but he was very active at the time in India. Martin Luther King, I've heard about him. I've heard that Martin Luther King heard about Gandhi, and had studied Gandhi. But Gandhi wasn't mentioned not one time in any classroom that I was in the 1940s. So fast forward, in the 1950s, I was just thinking about this whole thing. What do you call it and whatnot? But it seems like this race issue is just all over the world. And I could listen to the way that some of the white guys will talk about the Japanese and whatnot. And talk about the Germans that way. I mean, they talk about the color of them, little yellow monkeys and all of that. Yellow monkeys, okay? I mean, little brown monkeys sometimes. They put in the cartoons. All right, brown was getting pretty close to black there, and then most black people are brown. So I'm tossing all these ideas back and forth in my mind and whatnot, and I'm saying, when they refer to the Germans, they'd say the Krauts, meaning something that they ate. But they didn't say anything about their skin color. All right, when they talk about the Japanese or the Chinese or the Filipinos or the Koreans, it mentions skin color. And so, I'm tossing these things around in my mind, and I'm reading Richard Wright and all this type of thing. And so I came to the conclusion, what do you call it? And then it hit me in capital letters. The system of white supremacy. Boom. That was it. I say it's a world system. It's a world system. But I wasn't thinking so much at that time that it's an entire world government, that it governed everything, that everybody did, everywhere. Everybody was either participating or reacting to it. And by reacting to it, they were participating, even to the extent of even resisting it. But when I thought of it as being a system, that's when everything came together. Not right at once, but that was the beginning of it. And that was in the mid-1950s when I was in Japan. I had already been in the Army before then. I mean, long before then, got out of the Army, stayed out about 4 years and went back in the Air Force, all right, because of a reaction, a pitiful reaction to the system of white supremacy. I couldn't sustain myself on the outside, all right. I hated going back into the military because I never liked the military the whole time I was in there. It was just a way that a lot of black people, hey, I get some relief maybe of something, to get something. I mean, rather than go to jail, be out here stealing and whatnot. So I go into uniform. Okay, that's an option. So that was my reaction in that way. A lot of white guys, I mean, they could do a lot of things. They had a lot of options. I mean, a lot of them joined the military because they want to shoot somebody. Okay. Well, a lot of black people don't know. They hear enough gunfire right where they are. I mean, they're not joining for that reason, for the most part. Some of them are, but for the most part. And I was one of those that, hey, I don't want to shoot nobody. I don't want nobody shooting at me. I just hope that I can find a little nook somewhere like I did in the Air Force, because that's why I didn't go back into the Army. I already had credentials in the Army, but I went into the Air Force simply because I say the Air Force has a lot of jobs where you're not anywhere near the fighting, and that's where I wound up. While when I was in the Army, I was right on the front lines. When I was in the Air Force, I wasn't anywhere near any fighting. I'm in a little supply shed because that's where they put black people. Okay, that was all right with me. Keep them away from the front. Put them somewhere where they're doing what they're used to, manual labor. Okay, that's all right. Okay, put me in the rear. I don't mind being in the rear. I'll tell you that. When it comes to battlefields, I want to be as far back as you can get.
Okay.
Right.
All righty. So that was the emphasis on writing the book?
Yes, and I first wrote the first 6 pages about, what I thought about this whole thing. And it was for me, because I said, what we need is a code. And that came to my mind. I don't think at that time I had called it a code, but, I called it an arrangement or things to do and things not to do. It was just that simple. What do you say? When white guys, you're sitting at the lunch table, what we call the mess hall in the military, and this white guy blurts out the N-word like I heard, when I was overseas, when I was in combat, I heard it and all that. Okay. Now, that was when I was in the Army, and I heard it in the Air Force. And so, on the front lines and in the rear areas, it didn't make any difference. If I'm around white guys, it comes out, all right? So they use the N-word. And so it never really bothered me because I always expected it, like I do now. It doesn't bother me at all. Never did. Never did. Not from the first time. Never bothered me at all because what? I expected it. When you expect things, they really don't bother you that much. When you know that it's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
You know that it's going to happen way before it happens. So when it happens, you don't think nothing of it. So, but I was taking notes about what do you say when the guy says something like this, asks you about, something, you're having conversations. Well, what do you say around white people? All right? Because I came up in the South where you didn't say much to white people at all, and they certainly didn't say much to you unless they were telling you what to do. That was it. There wasn't going to be any other conversation. They're telling you what to do, and that's it. Once you do it, goodbye. No general, not sitting around having no chit-chat about anything ever, period. And so I understood that. But now, in the military, you got a lot of time. You're just sitting around, guys just finding something to talk about, like people do when they're just what you call just sitting around. Find something to talk about. So I'm trying to adjust all of this. So I say, well, when the guys start, most Southern white guys like to tell jokes, all right? And all the jokes that they knew, they didn't know any jokes except on black people, the way that I saw it. They'd start off telling a joke sometime. Let me tell you about this. And then he'd catch himself. He'd look at me and all of a sudden say, oh, wow, I'm glad I didn't go no further. And I know a lot of black people have experienced that. They know 1,000 jokes, all of them about black people. Let me tell you about this gal, Negro gal, all right? Have you heard of one about the old Negro, one they didn't say Negro,
okay,
washwoman, and the bear, all right? Oh, man, they know 1,000 of them, right? And so when they started telling them, they would have to keep catching themselves and all like that. So I started writing, what do you do when they start doing that? And I say, well, hey, I do what I've always done. I don't say nothing at all, And first thing I don't do, I don't tell jokes, all right? Because that's how they bait you in. You start telling a joke, now you're opening the door. So that's why I put it in the code book. When you're around white people, don't tell no jokes. None. If they tell jokes, you listen to them. And then I put it in the code book. What you say is, regardless of what kind of joke they say, you say 2 words when they finish. That's interesting. That's interesting. And that's what you say around a whole lot of white people, period. Even today. That's a part of the code. That's interesting. Regardless of what they say. When they're sitting around just talking about stuff, making conversation, they just say, you don't say nothing at the lunch table anywhere else. Just wait. And if they say, you're not saying anything, you say, well, I'm not saying anything because I'm listening to you, and what you're saying is interesting.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, hold it right there. We're going to pick that back up. That's interesting. That's where we're going to pick the conversation back up.
That's in the code book.
Okay. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. and the podcasts are available. That's Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. Coming up next, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start Mr. Fuller back up on That's Interesting, and then we're going to have Mr. Fuller speak about the movie list and ask him about a movie. All that and more coming up next.
System for countering the effects of white supremacy. TalkTainmentRadio.com is able to carry the first hour. However, the cost for the second hour is exceeding our limited budget. That is why we ask for your kind assistance in keeping the second hour on the air. If you believe like we do, help us in this struggle for justice. Go to the gold donate button on the TalkTainmentRadio.com web page and hit the gold donate button. That's the gold donate button. And please donate. Help us to keep the second hour of the compensatory concept on the air. Thank you.
Think you can't afford life insurance? Think again. You might be surprised at how affordable it can be. 80% of Americans overestimate the cost of life insurance. Maybe it's time to swap a few small expenses for some big peace of mind. Life insurance can protect what matters most, and it's the right thing to do. Let's talk today. So call me, Marvin Smith, at American Family Insurance at 614-986-3105. You can also visit my website at marvinsmithinsurance.com. American Family Life Insurance Company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin, 53783.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kickin online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kickin products are better than those other guys. Ash Kickin candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kickin online at www.ashkickin.com.
Stand by for an important announcement for renters and investors. You have probably heard about this bad economy and high foreclosure rate. I'm here to bring you hope. Every foreclosed property is a blessing or a deal for a new buyer or investor. These properties are selling every day all over Central Ohio for several reasons. They are equity rich, worth tens of thousands of dollars above their price. There is down payment money available and remodeling funds if needed. Don't let the doom and gloom news keep you from your dream of home ownership. Call Linco Realty today at 865-9614. That's 865-9614. Call now. Always remember, these times, like all times, are good times if we but know what to do with them. They also have programs for investors who want to get off the couch and run with the big dogs. Call Linco today at 865-9614 or log on to repohomeslist.com.
Looking for something special for your club or group? Take a trip. Cruise planners will help you plan the event of a lifetime. Explore exotic places from Africa to Asia, Bermuda to Las Vegas to Hawaii, with special offers that make it affordable and exciting. Click on to www.greatgetawaytrips.com for great deals, or call today at 614-707-SHIP. That's 614-707-7447.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
Sex Code War by Kahari Inaharo, the author of the Essence Magazine bestseller Race Code War, is releasing his second book, Sex Code War. Be on the lookout for Sex Code War.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Here's an idea. You've heard of the notion of pay it forward? It comes from the 2000 movie Pay It Forward. Basically, the premise is helping someone with no expectations of payback, providing assistance to someone, passing information on, simply doing a good deed for a total stranger, and instead of allowing them to pay it back, ask them to pay it forward. Doing favors for other people and asking them to do the same. The principle is the same as multi-level marketing, except that instead of soap or vitamins, it's generosity between strangers that is being passed on. Pay It Forward is mentoring. It's volunteering in your community. It's shoveling a neighbor's snow or cutting an elderly person's grass for them or taking a senior to the store. Don't wait for someone else to do something good. Do it yourself. It starts with you. Talktainment Radio strongly embraces the notion of pay it forward. In fact, we just did.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You got the power.
Alrighty, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, and today's program is entitled Produce Justice. We are speaking with Neely Fuller, and on this particular show, the 29th of January, we are not taking any phone calls this particular show, but we are going to read the emails, or excuse me, the Gmails that have accumulated. We'll do that and other questions that have come up. Mr. Fuller, you were talking about your time in the service and what we should say when the N word comes, or when they're telling jokes and they come to the conclusion of whatever joke they're telling. We should say, you left off by saying that's interesting.
Yes, and you should say this, generally speaking, anyway. When you're a black person and you're around white people and they are talking about this and talking about that, you don't have to do a lot of talking. You learn more when you're not talking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you let other people talk and give their points of view and whatnot.
Okay.
And so that should be the normal condition. A lot of black people just like to sit at the lunch table, and I mean they're attracting all the attention, talking loud too. I mean, attracting everybody's attention at other tables.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have that need to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and but just be quiet
mm-hmm.
and listen. We learn more. I mean, and when people say things that are insulting and all like that, you don't have to make a scene or whatnot. Just say, that's interesting.
Okay.
Right. I mean, we are prisoners of war.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we're not in an equal situation. We got to get that out of our heads. And that's not the way to get what you call equality, because you ain't going to get that in the system of white supremacy anyway. That's out.
Okay.
Forget about that. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get rid of the entire system to get that.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. Let's see here. Let's see a couple things here. I guess this is a combined question. First of all, the movie list. Now, quickly, will that movie list that you compiled, will it be on producejustice.com?
Yes, when I finally do it, 5 years ago at least, it should have been up.
Okay.
But on account of things keep coming up and all kind of diversions and got to do this and got to do that and
yes,
whatnot.
Sir.
And then the people that I'm working with, I got to coordinate with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all that dysfunction. It's dysfunction in just about everything. And that definitely applies to my circumstances.
Yes.
All kinds of dysfunction all over the place. I mean, so I just get it done as best I can in a compensatory way.
All righty, good.
I'll get that list up.
Okay,
Plus,
good.
the lessons to look for. See, I want to add that too.
Okay. Now,
I might not do that immediately.
Okay. With that being said, the reason why that movie list was brought up, I was asked to ask you, have you heard or have you seen the movie The Irishman?
No, I haven't, but I've heard, or read rather. I didn't really hear anything from anyone, but I've read some reviews on it. It's supposed to be what they call a 4-star movie.
Okay.
In the opinion of many.
Okay.
Because they say it's a lot of lessons in it, and reviews that I've had, I tend to believe there may be some.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Oh, okay.
I always say that the whole purpose for looking at any movie, on every scene, you judge it by how many lessons did you learn, and what were the lessons, and how can you use those lessons.
Okay.
All right.
All right. The reason why that was brought up is because I had, I think, vaguely heard of the movie, but anyway, I did a little research on that, and a former, I want to say, mob boss, or in the life, as he phrased it, Michael Franzese, or Franzese. Now, he's part of all the families that are well known in the mafia. Oh, he was part of that, but he's not anymore. He's a born-again Christian, but his father and all that were all involved in it. He made a comment about the movie, and he said that the movie was false. Now, this comes from a man who was part of life, but the only one that I know that actually got out of the life. Anyway, he made a comment about that, but I saw some excerpts of the movie, and it's very similar to The Godfather. And then I was asked to ask you if you had heard of it or seen it on the list, The Irishman. But anyway, Michael Franzese said that what was depicted in the movie was false. But you say even if it's false, or are you saying even though some of the things in there were false, that you can still pick up some things that we can learn from that?
Oh, sure. The movie, my favorite movie, Casablanca, that's strictly made up. In fact, from the history of the movie, from what I've heard, is that even in writing the script, even though it was not based on any kind of facts at all, but even in writing the script, they were making up stuff as they went along, sometimes by the minute, in the making of the movie.
Okay.
They said it was very sloppily made in the minds of the people who were making the movie. They didn't think the movie was going to amount to much of anything.
Okay.
And it turned out to be what they called the second greatest movie ever made, the movie Casablanca.
Casablanca.
All right.
Okay.
Now, the first movie I've heard from the American Film Institute, I think, the number one movie ever made was Citizen Kane.
Okay.
Now, I have seen Citizen Kane, and it has a lesson in it, one or two, but I don't think it has as many lessons as the movie Casablanca. See, I kind of judge a movie on the basis of the number of lessons and the way it's presented.
Okay.
Right.
Oh.
And I think that in Casablanca, the number of lessons were many more lessons than the movie Citizen Kane.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay.
Even more so than The Godfather, which is another movie that's on my list.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. Let's see here. Let's do this here. This is from the Gmail. It says, this is from Alpha. It says, recently, Mr. Fuller, a suspected white supremacist rapper, was discussing the topic of the Confederate flag being displayed in hip-hop. Another suspected white supremacist rapper is using a Confederate flag on stage, in his clothing, and on his CD cover. The white rapper stated, I'm paraphrasing, he says, that he does not see that as a problem because the Confederate flag has a different meaning to everyone. It does not mean racism. He sees this as a display of pride for Southern heritage, end of the quote. Alpha has this question, Mr. Fuller. He says, now that the Confederate flag is becoming popular in hip-hop music, I've heard and listened to shows where you have discussed the Confederate flag, but I will be honest, I don't believe that there is a codified response to the Confederate flag. So, Mr. Fuller, so this is not a just question, but a request. Can you please discuss the Confederate flag and how victims of white supremacy can have a constructive response to the issue of the Confederate flag? Thank you.
Well, this is all covered in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, which you can get by going to producejustice.com. I talk about flags. I talk about what is a flag, okay? A person can be a flag, which is really what you're talking about, because they say a flag represents people, okay? So I'm not watching the flag. I'm watching the person. I don't care about the flag. Me and the flag got, hey, no problem with no flag, all right? The codified position on flags is this. I do at all times, if you're going to put it in words, a pledge to the flag, and it's in the textbook. You can pledge to any flag. I pledge to the so-called Confederate flag. I pledge to the flag. Make a pledge. The universal pledge that applies to any flag that's ever made and all the flags that are going to be made. Same pledge. I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. Now that's the universal pledge that you can take to any flag, anywhere. Any kind of flag. Flags that you're not even looking at. You can take a pledge to it without even looking at it. And you say you relate to that flag the exact same way that the flag relates to you. The flag might even be buried 6 feet under the ground. I'm still relating to it the way that the flag relates to me. I'm here. The flag is 6 feet under the ground. The flag is relating to me from being 6 feet under the ground to where I am 6 feet above ground. So, I'm still relating to the flag. The flag can be on a flag pole, high up in the air, 3 feet, 20 feet, 2,000 feet, up beyond the clouds. And I look at that flag, if I can see it from that distance, 20,000 feet up on a pole, I'm relating to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me, and I'm telling the truth. That's another thing. Everything in the code is supposed to be, hey, in line with the truth. I'm relating to that flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me at all times. Underline the word all. At all times, regardless of where that flag is. What flag? Any flag. Somewhere right now there are Brazilian flags that are fluttering in the wind. I'm not looking at them, but I'm relating to them the exact same way that they relate to me.
All right.
Now, someone might ask the logical question. Well, Fuller, how does the Confederate flag relate to you? And you have your codified response to that. I just told you. I relate to it the same way it relates to me.
The exact
say,
same
yeah,
way.
But if they want a further answer, you got one for them. And what is that? And for yourself and for everybody else. You say, okay, you keep asking me that. You didn't like the answer that I gave you, which is the truthful answer. I relate to that flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me.
Yes, sir.
So you want another answer, so I will give you another one. To your second question, how does the flag relate to you, Fuller? I don't know. You can ask the flag. That's how you answered it. This is in the textbook.
Yes, sir.
And I'm talking to everybody all over the world right now. That's how you relate to any flag, and you're telling the truth every time you do it. And now if somebody asks you to lie, and then you say, well, hey, you want me to tell you the truth, or you want me to tell you a lie? I'm relating to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. Now, what's the problem? What's the problem? Now, that's the question you can ask. What is the problem? I relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. On the football field, when they, all of this disturbance you have and whatnot, all this talk about whether you take a knee and all like that, I can just say, hey, Fuller, take a pledge to this flag. Oh, no problem. I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. That's my pledge.
Okay.
Under freedom of speech. That's my pledge. What's the problem? Me and the flag got a thing going on. I mean, ain't got nothing to do with nothing else. All right? And that thing is, I'm relating to it the same way that it relates to me. And if you want to know what that is, ask the flag.
Ask the flag. Okay.
Ask the flag how it relates to me.
Okay.
I mean, sit there and talk to it all day. I'm gone. All right?
Okay. Before I ask you a question about your book, which we can go to producejustice.com. So just to be clear for everybody, are you saying concerning the flag, is it possible for us to pledge our allegiance to a flag?
Oh, well, see, that comes down to this is the codified procedure. What do you mean by allegiance?
Okay. Asking questions.
You're
I got
going
it.
to the question mode.
Okay.
The person says, hey, are you pledging allegiance to this flag? Well, what do you mean by allegiance?
Okay.
You say, well, take the pledge. So you give the pledge that I just gave. See, there's no way around that.
Yes, sir.
There's no wiggle room for anybody.
Okay.
All right? And that's the best pledge that will ever be made to any flag. I'm making that as a flat statement. You can't make a pledge better than that. It doesn't get no better than that. All this stuff about, I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. That's a phony pledge.
Okay.
I'm saying that outright.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that comes nowhere close to the quality of the pledge that I just gave on the air, repeatedly this morning. I do it all times. Relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. You will never have a pledge better than that.
Yes, sir.
I'm anywhere on the planet to any flag. It's a catch-all. I mean, and it's true. See, now that pledge that people take when they say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the first place, you're not telling the truth.
That's right.
Because justice does not exist. And how are you going to be taking a pledge to something that you say is justice, which is the flag? The flag doesn't represent justice because justice has never been produced. There's no evidence of this. None. If you go to court, prove it. Prove that the justice exists anywhere on this planet in a system of white supremacy. Do you have white supremacy on the planet? Well, some people say no. I say yes. All right? Well, if you got white supremacy on the planet, then that means automatically you can't have justice. So how can you take a pledge to a flag that you say represents justice and justice doesn't exist? You're not telling the truth. That's number one. You're making something up, and you're making a false pledge. And another thing, how do you know the flag knows anything about what you're talking about? You say the flag represents. That flag, that piece of cloth, or that painting on a wall represents? No, people represent. And one person cannot really represent another. You can only repeat what that person said or something like that. But when you say represent, nobody can represent me but me. I'm present. So I present myself. Now, if a person says, I'm going to represent something that Neely Fuller said, now that you're telling the truth. But you can't represent me when you are you. I'm talking about logic. Everything in counter-racist science is 100% cold logic, if you want to put a temperature on it. Cold logic, right to the truth, every time. So see, black people can't afford to be involved in anything except the truth, all right? Because that's the thing that will get us where we need to be going. Because the white supremacist system is based on what? Falsehood, all right? You're supposed to be eligible to be mistreated on account of you're the incorrect color.
Yes, sir.
Black people are not the incorrect color. According to what? According to the creator of color.
Okay.
All right? That's the logic of it.
Okay.
So how could we be the incorrect color and the creator made us the color that we are? We're the correct color.
Okay. I hate to interrupt you, Mr. Fuller, but I've got to get this in. We got about 3 minutes here. I need you to talk about your book for the next 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. You can get the book, and it will cover the things that I've been saying on air this morning, with the exception of when I said everything I have ever done has been a pitiful reaction to the system of white supremacy. I said that this morning. Now, that's not in the book, because I just wrote that this morning. Now, but you can get the book that covers this flag business and a lot of other things I've been talking about, a few things I've been talking about, by going to producejustice.com. Just producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the textbook for victims of white supremacy. And it's got 3 titles on it. You know, but the main title, the explicit title, is at the bottom of the bottom title on the book. They all mean the same thing, basically, but it's explicit. A textbook workbook for thought, speech, and/or action for victims of racism, and racism is white supremacy. So that's what you'll have there. And producejustice.com. You can get the basic textbook, and you can get the original one, because this is the basic revised expanded edition, 2016 volume. And some people wanted the 1984 original edition for whatever reason they have for wanting it, because the revised expanded edition covers everything, for the most part, that's in the original 1984 edition. But both of them are up there. And then there's also a word guide, all right? And it's business about flags. Raise questions about what exactly is a flag. What is a flag for? What is the flag supposed to accomplish? All right? You know, while people are talking about the Confederate flag and all like that, I don't break all that down. I just talk about flags in general. What's a flag supposed to do? What are you supposed to do about a flag? All right? What is a flag? You can call a person a flag, all right? Which is what the real flags really are. I mean, if you're talking about a flag represents people, well, most flags don't even look like people. They're not even in the image of people. You know, so, you know, you can go into a long discussion on that. The codification is about going into fine detail on everything, because that's where the truth is. See, we have a tendency just to say things, I mean, you know, and just brush things off and just move on. We move too fast.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to make judgments about things, first thing you do is slow down.
Okay.
And when you're making a judgment, slow down. You do this when you're driving a car.
All righty. There is the music, so we're going to have to close the first hour. TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening, and tune in for the second hour, which will begin very shortly. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTameRadio.com. You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTameRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTameRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTameRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All right. Welcome to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard here on TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go, the world's greatest radio. Again, you're in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and my name is Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. You're listening to a pre-recorded program which will be played on the 29th of January, so do not call that number because it's not going to be beneficial to you. Right now, we're having a show where Mr. Fuller is answering the Gmails that I have accumulated. And by the way, all your Gmails will get answered at some point, so you don't have to worry about that. I do have quite a few of them, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. We also have some questions that have been forwarded to me to ask Mr. Fuller, so we will do that. Okay, and for more information on that, you can go to ProduceJustice.com. And as a matter of fact, that is the title of the program is Produce Justice. But for more information, you can go to ProduceJustice.com and to clear up any problems or situations that you may have. But if you want to submit a question, you can do it by going to the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and I will be sure to have Mr. Fuller answer that question or your question at some point. We are talking about Produce Justice. And going to the Gmails here, this is from one of our fine listeners, Jane Lance, and I can do that. Usually I will not read a last name, particularly if you ask me not to, but she does not mind, so that's why I am reading and giving her last name. Anyway, she says this, Mr. Fuller. She said, before I ask a question, I would like to express some VGQ, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for writing your book. It has and will continue to help me and others make logical decisions and produce justice. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Okay, anyway, thank you, Mr. Fuller, and for getting the message to the people each week. She says, Mr. Fuller, on page 191 of the book, and that is the Revised Standard Edition, I'm going to assume. On page 191 of the book in area number 6, Politics, People Relations, I have been using the given responses when people try to include me in conversations that are not constructive. I have also received pushback and attitude for choosing to remain silent. You just talked about that. Silent when I don't have anything constructive to say. Sad but true, most of the people giving me a hard time are elder relatives. I have been accused of being quiet because I'm angry with them, acting stuck up, being sad, or going through something. Mr. Fuller, I love my care unit, but they act as if they are obsessed with dysfunction. Should I practice, quote, no contact, no conflict, end of quote, and stop speaking to them until they get on code? They know what the code is, but don't follow it. Thank you, Jane Lance.
No, what you do, you can contact people, but you always say, just to be consistent, you are trying to do the most constructive thing. You just explain to people what you're trying to do. They might be bewildered by your behavior, but you're saying, I'll do whatever is constructive. Then you can ask a question. Is there anything that you all have against being constructive? And then put a question mark behind it. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. You can just start off the conversation yourself. What's the problem? Is there a problem? Why is there a problem? Am I the problem? You can just spend hours just trying to, get the conversation started about, hey, it seems to be a problem here. So let's find out what the problem is. Because I didn't think that I was causing a problem, but I might be causing a problem. So what problem am I causing? What am I doing to anybody that I shouldn't be doing? And if it's something that I shouldn't be doing, I'll figure out a way to stop doing it. Naturally. I'm on board with that. And if it's something I should be doing, what is it I should be doing that is of constructive value? Is there anything incorrect about being constructive? You got a choice. You can be constructive or non-constructive. Which choice do you all want me to make? To be non-constructive? Would you like for me to be non-constructive? Non-constructive by doing what? And what will be the result of me being non-constructive? Will you complain about my non-constructive activities, the non-constructive things that I will do to have a non-constructive effect on you? Do you want me to, when I interact with you, do something that's definitely non-constructive for you? Or do you want me to do something that's non-constructive for me? Or do you want me to do something that's non-constructive for everybody? And so when you draw a line on everything that's non-constructive, what do you get? Non-constructive results for everybody, unless I've been misinformed. Now, what do you all want me to do? It gets to those four wants again. What do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? Those are four questions that will cover everybody, every minute of every day, everywhere on the planet. Madagascar, Tripoli, London, England, white, black, yellow, brown, male, female. What do you want me to do? Or what do you want to do? Why do you want me to do it? Or why do you want to do it? How do you plan? Must have a plan. You want to do it. What's your plan? Are you working on getting a plan if you don't have a plan? All right? And after all, bottom line, fourth question, what do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, that's on page 171 of the Revised Expanded Edition.
Yes.
Code book. Of the four the four questions that you ask about wants, starting with yourself. What do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? How do I plan to do it? And what do I expect the constructive result to be? Now, those four questions fit everybody on the planet right this minute, and every other minute they're on the planet when they are awake. Now, naturally, when you are not awake, when you're asleep, it doesn't apply because you're not conscious enough to raise these four questions. But every minute that you're awake, whether you're verbalizing them, meaning you're saying them, you are thinking about these four questions. What do I want to do? I want to get up out of this chair and walk across the room. Well, why do you want to get out of that chair and walk across the room? I want to get out of this chair and walk across the room because I see another chair that's more comfortable than this chair. Oh, well, that's the reason you want to do that. So that's the answer to that question. Why do you want to do it? It's a more comfortable chair. Okay? Well, how do you plan to get in that more comfortable chair? To get out of this uncomfortable chair, walk across the room and sit in the chair that is comfortable. That's how I plan to do it, because I can walk. Okay? So that's your plan. That's the answer. You're being truthful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you expect the constructive result to be? Well, I can think better when I'm in a chair that's more comfortable than a chair that's uncomfortable. Oh, okay. That's the answer to the fourth question. See, all day long, you are dealing with those four questions. Everybody on the planet is.
All right. There you have it. Thank you, Jane, for
now,
your...
if I didn't answer the question, and sometimes I don't, or sometimes people don't understand my answer, and I can understand that, I'll elaborate further.
Yeah. Yes. She will contact me and let me know, but for the most part, yeah, you did answer that question. Okay, let's see here. Let me do this early here. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here's two that I'm going to share with you. This is Libby and Talking Sports Plus with Mr. Bobby. Now, these two particular shows are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com. And all you have to do as a listener is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and there you will see a list, dates, and times when the program is on, and you can give it a sample or a listen to see if you like it or not. You could like or subscribe to it, and all the other programs that are there also. We give you this all from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio, the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Today's show, the 29th of January, 2020, we are discussing produce justice. Produce justice. Now, we're not taking any calls, so that's why you have not heard the phone number given out. However, we are doing Gmails which have accumulated. So Mr. Fuller is answering your Gmails and also questions that have been forwarded to me. Okay, excuse me, Mr. Fuller, this comes from, let's see here, from Chris. He says this, Mr. Fuller, using counter-racist logic, we cannot have justice and white supremacy on the same planet. Also, we do not have a master list identifying exactly who is a white supremacist. My question is, Mr. Fuller, when white supremacy is replaced with justice, should we have a master list identifying exactly who practices justice? If so, why or why not?
Well, you can. I mean, just like you have a list of names of anybody, if you just want to list names. But you always know when justice is being practiced because you have something to measure by. Is anybody being mistreated? That's all. You know, when somebody's mistreated, you don't have justice. You don't have justice when somebody's being mistreated. Justice is just the opposite of mistreatment. And you don't have justice when the person that needs help the most is not getting the most constructive help. Justice is difficult to achieve. That's why people give lip service to it, I guess, ever since the word was invented or the concept was thought about. A world in which no one is being mistreated, and that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help every time without exception. Now, that doesn't happen anywhere, to the best of my knowledge. I've never heard of a place or a people or any tribe or any group of people. I mean, you know, you've got tribes all over the world. You've got more tribes than you got anything. Of people, you know, my little group, my little sorority, my little fraternity. And while I'm thinking about that, black fraternities, you shouldn't be copying off of white fraternities in any way when it comes to one thing in particular that I'm thinking about in this one way, that hazing thing. What in the world? Here's a black person in a so-called fraternity talking about we are going through an initiation. Think about slavery when you're doing that. After all these years, well, you are new to the fraternity, so you got to go through, I mean, you know, to see, you know, our ritual that and you're going to start beating somebody or throwing water on them or making them run down the street with no clothes on or whatever it is. That's what the white supremacists was doing with black people. And you call yourself a black fraternity and you are perpetuating this type of nonsense? Just the opposite of what any fraternity is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a haven right out the gate. The person is supposed, for the first time, for the first thing out of a fraternity, brothers, I don't know anything about fraternities, but I know that much from what I've heard. I've never been a member of a fraternity. But I mean, the way I envision it, the way it should be, a person who is a so-called member of a fraternity, a person without he or she even knowing that you are a member of a fraternity, should be able to tell that you are a member of a fraternity just by the way you approach them from the very first time you open your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You should say, "Oh, you must be a member of a black fraternity over there at that college," because you talk to me, I mean, in the most civil manner that I have ever heard in my life. And when you took me over to your fraternity hall, everybody treated me in a way that I've never been treated in all of my life. And when I joined, I mean, the initiation and all like that,
I mean, I've never been treated this way in all of my life. Not even by my father, my mother, my friends. Oh, this fraternity. Oh, my goodness. I should have known about this. That's the way people are supposed to be talking about you and your fraternity or your sorority right this minute. Right out of the gate. I'm talking about from the very first minute. I mean, you should be different. Not like everybody else, and certainly not like a slave driver. Well, you got to go through our initiation. I mean, and prove yourself. My goodness. Stop and think about what you're doing. Stop and think about what you are doing and why you are doing it. Where is all this supposed to lead? Just a suggestion. Everything in codification is just a suggestion. But black fraternities shouldn't be duplicates of white fraternities.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're called black fraternities, even though they have the Alpha Omega, they have all this kind of stuff about Greek history and all like that. I mean, make your own history.
Yes. Okay. Going to this Gmail. This man has been hanging on for a long time. He says this, Mr. Fuller. He says this, Mr. Fuller, white supremacists don't rule the world. Why does global white supremacy affect only black people, and why are non-blacks above whites? Why do white supremacist racists love brown, yellow, red, and hate blacks only? Mr. Fuller, I'm asking this question because of white supremacists loving brown, yellow, red people and hate blacks only. Also, in my point of view, global white supremacy only affects black people. The Chinese rule the world because they have more billionaires than white supremacists. They do also control corporations like Sony, AMC Theaters, Improv. White supremacists don't control the planet, but groups like brown, yellow, and red people do. Please respond, Mr. Fuller.
Well, the only way I can respond to that is VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualification. I didn't say that. The person that sent that Gmail or email said that. So that's my only response, because the code I have to follow the code. The code says these are statements made. But then there was a question at the end of the statement. And the question is, do I agree with that? And I say no. Because you can't have white supremacy and yellow supremacy on the same planet at the same time, according to everything I've seen and experienced. And I know that they are billionaires. They are billionaire black people. But black people who are billionaires are subject to the system of white supremacy. You can't have but one supreme. There seems to be some confusion here about the word supreme. I'm saying it's just one supreme when it comes to race. White supremacy. White. Not yellow, not brown, not tan, not beige, not red, not billionaire. If you're talking about color in people, there's just one supreme. That's white. White supremacy on planet Earth. On other planets, no. Now, I haven't seen any evidence to contradict this. So I'm not disagreeing with the caller. But the caller gave opinions and then asked a question, I guess, of why did I conclude that there's such a thing as white supremacy? Because that's my conclusion. That's the only way I can answer that from everything that I've seen. I've seen everybody respond to the white supremacists. When the white supremacists say, this is the way it's going to be done, that's how I've always seen it done.
Mm-hmm.
Always. I haven't seen it done any other way.
Okay.
People copy after the ways of the white supremacists, which is a form of supremacy.
Yes, sir.
Look and see what the white people who believe in white supremacy are doing and copy that. If they are gangsters, which is what white supremacy is a gangster operation, I want to be a gangster. All right?
Yeah.
Want to be one right now. How fast can you make me a gangster? Okay? That's white supremacy. You didn't come up with that idea. You didn't invent the idea of being a gangster for the black people who have decided they want to be gangsters, thugs, whatnot. The white supremacists are the supreme thugs that the world has ever seen, according to the evidence. Not according to Neely Fuller, according to all the evidence. So, for black people who are talking about being thugs, you're real late to the party and not very good at being it, because you come under the supremacy of the white thugs, who are the white supremacists. They know all about thuggery, everything about it, from A to Z. We just learning.
Okay. All righty. Two questions here, Mr. Fuller. The first, I'll read them in order. The first question here, we're about 4 minutes outside of break. The first question was from the first hour. You mentioned a need to be heard. Why do black people have a need to be heard?
Well, there was a man named, a victim of racism, rather, named Ralph Wiley, I believe. And I didn't read his book, but I saw the title of it. It's Why Black People Tend to Shout.
Okay.
Now, I didn't read the book, and I never really found out what he meant by raising the question. But the question did catch my eye. Why do black people tend to shout? So I have thought about that. Black people need to be heard, in my opinion, is because we have been silenced so long, all right? Under the system of white supremacy, black people were taught, hey, here come the white folks, everybody get quiet now. Y'all can do all that screaming and yelling and whatnot, carrying on. White people just came in. Get quiet, Negro, because that's how they want it. They want it quiet. They coming in and do the thinking now, do the planning, including how they going to handle you. So get quiet and listen, all right? Mom is home. Dad is home. See, the dark people of this planet in the system of white supremacy are in childlike positions. How do children act when the teacher leaves the room? I was, subject in the elementary school. I knew how I acted. We start throwing erasers and whatnot. We carry on, okay? The minute we say, teacher's coming, then everybody scrambles back to their desk. But put those erasers back in place and whatnot. I mean, we were playing with, throwing, shooting, little pellets at each other with our little slingshots that we had in our desk, learning how to be violent while the teacher's out of the room. Teacher comes in. So now the whole world for black people on the planet, in answer to the question, is dominated by the white supremacists. So we know how to act when teacher comes in. And they are our teachers. They are our masters. They are our illegitimate parents. So we know how to act when they come around. Sometimes we're in desperation mode. That's when we would definitely want them to come around, because we don't know how to act with each other. But when they show up, they say, okay, all right, the nonsense is all over. Dad is home. All right. So what's the problem here? See, everybody gets submissive. But why black people tend to shout? We tend to shout because we want to be heard. And we get around each other, and that's when we explode, all right? Black people on a bus, look around, see that the bus is full of black people. It's now showtime. We have seen it. I've seen it over and over again. It's showtime. And we start showing off, talking loud, cussing everybody out on the bus, all right, including, want to get the bus driver in on it, give him a few cuss words, or her. Somebody, grandmother driving the bus, got three grandchildren, half of them in trouble. All right, or one of them in trouble, trying to drive a bus. Now she's being harassed by other black people who got the same problem. That's how we are, but we don't see ourselves that way. Why can't we be quiet when there's no white people on the bus? All right?
Yes, sir.
White people get on the bus, a little old white lady, 4 or 5 of them. Now, they'll be intimidated for a while, all right? But, after a while, they're not even riding that bus.
Yes. All right, Mr. Fuller, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off riding the bus. I have to cut you off right here because we have to go to a commercial. All righty. Break. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. Podcasts are available. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. Coming up next, a question from Brother Jay, and we will let Mr. Fuller finish that thought about the bus or on the bus. All that and more coming up next here on TalkTameItRadio.com.
TalkTameItRadio.com is proud to present the compensatory concept. It is an effective system for countering the effects of white supremacy. TalkTameItRadio.com is able to carry the first hour. However, the cost for the second hour is exceeding our limited budget. That is why we ask for your kind assistance in keeping the second hour on the air. If you believe like we do, help us in this struggle for justice. Go to the gold donate button on the TalkTameItRadio.com web page and hit the gold donate button. That's the gold donate button. And please donate. Help us to keep the second hour of the compensatory concept on the air. Thank you.
Think you can't afford life insurance? Think again. You might be surprised at how affordable it can be. 80% of Americans overestimate the cost of life insurance. Maybe it's time to swap a few small expenses for some big peace of mind. Life insurance can protect what matters most, and it's the right thing to do. Let's talk today. So call me, Marvin Smith, at American Family Insurance at 614-986-3105. You can also visit my website at marvinsmithinsurance.com. American Family Life Insurance Company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin, 53783.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kickin' online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kickin' products are better than those other guys. Ash Kickin' candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kickin' online at www.ashkickin.com.
Stand by for an important announcement for renters and investors. You have probably heard about this bad economy and high foreclosure rate. I'm here to bring you hope. Every foreclosed property is a blessing or a deal for a new buyer or investor. These properties are selling every day all over Central Ohio for several reasons. They are equity rich, worth tens of thousands of dollars above their price. There is down payment money available and remodeling funds if needed. Don't let the doom and gloom news keep you from your dream of home ownership. Call Linco Realty today at 865-9614. That's 865-9614. Call now. Always remember, these times, like all times, are good times if we but know what to do with them. They also have programs for investors who want to get off the couch and run with the big dogs. Call Linko today at 865-9614 or log on to repohomeslist.com.
Looking for something special for your club or group? Take a trip. Cruise planners will help you plan the event of a lifetime. Explore exotic places from Africa to Asia, Bermuda to Las Vegas to Hawaii, with special offers that make it affordable and exciting. Click on to www.greatgetawaytrips.com for great deals or call today at 614-707-SHIP. That's 614-707-7447.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
Sex Code War by Kahari Inaharo, the author of the Essence magazine bestseller Race Code War, is releasing his second book, Sex Code War. Be on the lookout for Sex Code War.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Here's an idea. You've heard of the notion of pay it forward? It comes from the 2000 movie Pay It Forward. Basically, the premise is helping someone with no expectations of payback, providing assistance to someone, passing information on, simply doing a good deed for a total stranger, and instead of allowing them to pay it back, ask them to pay it forward. Doing favors for other people and asking them to do the same. The principle is the same as multi-level marketing, except that instead of soap or vitamins, it's generosity between strangers that is being passed on. Pay It Forward is mentoring. It's volunteering in your community. It's shoveling a neighbor's snow or cutting an elderly person's grass for them or taking a senior to the store. Don't wait for someone else to do something good. Do it yourself. It starts with you. Talktainment Radio strongly embraces the notion of pay it forward. In fact, we just did.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our topic today is produce justice, and we are having Mr. Fuller give the examples of that. We're not taking phone calls today, so do not attempt to call that number. But if you did have any questions, I'll tell you what you can do. You can go to producejustice.com, and Mr. Fuller or whoever is there will answer your questions right there. Mr. Fuller, would you like to continue where you left off at or go to another question?
I can go to another question.
Okay. This comes from Brother Jay, Mr. Fuller. He says, Mr. Fuller, while I get what you mean about putting health under area number one, economics, on some level in terms of the amount of time we spend exercising and consuming food, it is also nonsensical, in my opinion. A caller last week asked you about the white supremacists weaponizing food, health, and wellness against us through the amount of toxins being sprayed in the air, GMOs, and medical experimentation, and they were right. that aspect of our health has nothing to do with economics because we have little control over the outcome, even if we try and not to consume as much or stay indoors all day to try to avoid the amount of toxins we'd be exposed to. However, if you did want to place health under one of the other areas of human activity, I'd suggest maybe the ninth area, war, because it is clearly a form of war being waged on the public. So I say either place health in the modern context under war or just create it as a 10th area, which it seems you're very reluctant to do because you want to keep your areas of activity under 10. Just my suggestion, Mr. Fuller, but thank you for taking time for considering my VGQ. Your response, please.
My response is, on VGQ, a person can do that. They can place it any way they want to. If they're eating a plate of food, they can say, well, this has nothing to do with economics. This food that's sitting before me, this has to do with war. Somebody's making war on me because I think this food is spoiled, or this food is poison, or I think this food ain't really food. And that's the conclusion I've come to. And you can do that. That's why it's called the United Independent Compensatory Code. And you can just say, well, I'm not placing this. Neely Fuller said something about food being under economics, having to do with time and energy. But I'm saying, hey, somebody's making war on me. So you can do that. Nobody's going to stop you. All you got to do is do it. See, everything under the compensatory code is addressed to the individual person. It's supposed to give strength to the individual person so you can see the entire world from your perspective, which is the way you're supposed to see it, regardless of how Neely Fuller sees it or anybody else. That's the whole point of the United Independent concept. But your goal should be the same. How you get there is up to you.
Yes.
What you think from one moment to the next, that's up to you, because each person's individuality should be regarded.
Okay.
I want people to understand this. That's the whole purpose of the code, to empower the individual.
Mm-hmm.
We usually think that everybody has to be thinking the same thing, the same way, the same time, in lockstep. That's a form of slavery.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're trying to get away from.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to empower the individual person so that the individual person, even if you're the only person on the planet, one person on the entire planet, and you are that person. Now, what do you do? What are the things that you do, and what are the things that you don't do as the only person on the entire planet? And that's your code.
Yes, sir.
All right? And that's it. That's all the compensatory code is, to get every black person to that point where, hey, I'm not really checking with Fuller. I'm not checking with some white person, that wrote some book somewhere. I'm not checking with this. I'm not checking with that. I'm checking what am I supposed to be doing on the planet? If I was the only person on the planet, what am I supposed to be doing? What are my circumstances telling me that I'm supposed to be doing? Go by your own individual circumstances.
Yes.
That's the whole purpose of the code.
Yes, sir. And this is just me, my VGQ. I think that is, well, at least for me, when you had it in your title of your book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Only those who heard that. The United Independent compensatory code system concept. Question here before we move to another question. Question came up from Cynthia. She says this, Mr. Fuller, is it possible to have a trial without evidence?
Sure, you can have a trial. Oh, can you have a trial without evidence? People do that all the time. Black people, boy, wow, off the hook.
Okay.
Trial without evidence? We've been tried, tried, convicted, and hung.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't... On the basis of what? On the basis of no evidence at all except one evidence.
Then how could it be a trial?
No, there happened to be a person with black skin available to hang. That's it.
Well, will that be a cover-up then?
No, I'm saying understanding white supremacy.
Okay.
Beyond comes a black person. All right?
Okay. All righty.
We are going to hang that black person because that black person is what? Black.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's the evidence right there.
Okay.
Being black, existing while black. We understand that. We should understand it. We understand it, but then when we start talking about it, we talk like we don't understand that. Existing while black.
EWB.
It's a major crime in the system of white supremacy. You can't have a bigger crime than that. Existing while black.
EWB.
That's the evidence. Where's
Yes, sir.
the evidence that, we just hung that boy, all right? Hung him for what? For that crime he committed. Well, what was the evidence of the crime? Was no evidence. Yes, there was. It was self-evident. He was black. He's supposed to be hung. End of story. Oh, now I get it. Well, you should have got it the first time around. What do you think this is?
Gotcha.
We don't do no guessing. We know what we're doing.
All righty. All right, there you go, Sylvia. EWB. Okay. Before we ask you to speak about your book, this came in from Brother Petrus said this. Please, Mr. Bobby, can you ask Mr. Fuller whether he knows that the word for fun, which he has used many times in the Irish language, is crack? Is C-R-A-I-C, but it's pronounced crack. He said, did Mr. Fuller, does he know that or not? That the word fun...
I didn't know that.
I didn't look that up.
And I'm quite sure that the word fun in 1,000 languages, because there are thousands of languages and sub-languages, so-called, on the planet, so I've been told. I'm quite sure that there's a word for fun that doesn't sound anything like the word that we use in English language, F-U-N, fun. In Swahili, it might be something else. What is it?
Mandarin?
Yes. The Chinese language.
Yeah.
And all the sub-languages. The word fun might sound like something you never heard before. You might have 15 letters in it. I don't know.
Yeah. Way things are going. Okay. All right. It is at this time, Mr. Fuller, that we will have you speak to your book, which we can get on producejustice.com. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, you can just go to producejustice.com. Just remember that. Any questions that you have about anything, really, go to producejustice.com, and you will see the basic revised edition there, 2016 edition, of the textbook workbook for victims of white supremacy. The book, like I said before, is addressed to the individual person. That's why I call it the compensatory code. We don't have anything that's addressed to the individual. We have everything addressed to black people in general. Most books are written that way, talking about, what we can do as a collective or what we can do over a period of time. The textbook for victims of white supremacy is what you can do about everything that's going on right in front of you right this minute. Right this minute, wherever you happen to be on the planet. How to react to it, what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, without checking with anybody. Just check with yourself. That's how you become more and more empowered, when you can check with yourself. All right? Have a code that you say, this is my code, this is what I do, and why do I do it? Because when I do it, it always works for me, not against me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this book is written for. Always, every move that you make, it doesn't work against you, it works for you as an individual person. Now, you say, well, is that going to be at the expense of everybody else? No, because the code says you can't mistreat nobody in the process of looking out for yourself. That's the production of justice, all right? But you do the best you can. But in a world in which it's set up, you're in a prison system, you may injure someone else while you're helping yourself, because the white supremacists see to that. And most likely that is to happen. But you do the very best you can. And that's why in the code book itself it says minimize conflict. It doesn't say you can eliminate conflict between the victims themselves. You can't. There's no way that you can eliminate it. You have to eliminate the system of white supremacy in order to do that. But you try to minimize conflict by minimizing non-constructive contact. That's the first thing you do. Try to make every contact constructive. And you try to be truthful about everything,
yes,
and upfront about everything,
mm-hmm.
to minimize the conflict. But you're going to have that conflict. But don't escalate the conflict by making a terrible situation, I mean, almost impossible, all right, to go any further. You don't aggravate the situation. You try to minimize it as much as you possibly can with the understanding that as slaves, which is what we are, still at the bottom of the ship, you might step on another slave's foot. Why? Because of the crowded conditions, that's why. And so you don't fight about that. Yes, it was painful that your foot got stepped on, but you understood, because you stepped on somebody's foot. All right, trying to get off the other person's foot, okay, or get off away from the person who was stepping on your foot. So you got your foot stepped on, or you stepped on somebody else's foot. That's the condition that the white supremacists has put us in. That's why we claw and scratch at each other in all of the areas of activity, male and female. I mean, we're clawing and scratching. Females have called me and said, what can we do about all this breakdown in communications between black males and black females? How come we can't get on the same page? I say it ain't going to happen. There's no way you can do that in the system of white supremacy. If you could do that, you would need to get rid of the system. I mean, stop and think about it. If black males and black females could get together in harmony and have everything working smoothly, I mean, hey, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yes, sir.
So, but the white supremacists are not going to allow that. As long as we have to get rid of the system. There ain't no way around it.
And replace it.
Right, and replace it with a system of justice.
There you go.
Otherwise, we're going to keep just moaning and groaning about the system that we got, because that's what we're going to be stuck with.
There you go.
All right? Mm-hmm. But go to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And all these things I'm saying now, for the most part, are in the book.
Okay. All righty. Let's go to a Gmail. This comes from all the way across the pond, as I've heard said, from Brother Anthony Mack. And he says this, Mr. Fuller, I have often heard you say that black people should always go to the white supremacists to ask for help if they need it. If they need help. I have recently started to implement this action, especially in the workplace. I am finding that asking for help from the white supremacists has been working quite successfully for me thus far, especially if I ask them very politely. The reason I have implemented this recent strategy is because from personal experiences and recent counter-racist revelations, I have realized that a lot of black people around me and other non-white people don't actually know enough information to help me. And even if they know something, they only know enough information to simply get by in life, and they are far more concerned with their own predicament rather than lending me some help. Mr. Fuller, could you please talk about the importance of why you think that black people should always ask white supremacists for help under the system of white supremacy? And do you also care to comment about why you think white supremacists continue to hoard very important information and knowledge from black people? Thank you. Best regards, Anthony Mackin from London, England.
Well, in answer to the first question, look at the entire universe in the system of white supremacy and this place that we call planet Earth as a ship. It's just a ship. It's a slave ship under the tutelage of a captain called the system of white supremacy. And the black people, the people of color, who can't be white supremacists or who are not eligible to be white supremacists because they're not white, they have color in their skin, are the slaves on that slave ship. The entire planet is a slave ship in the system of white supremacy, and if you are black on the planet Earth, you are on that ship, okay? Now, logically, what do they say about a ship at sea? They say the captain is in charge. That means if you're talking about the system of white supremacy, the captain of the ship of white supremacy is white. A white person who is a white supremacist. Not the white people who are not white supremacists, the white people who are white supremacists. That's why you have white supremacists. They are supreme. Okay, now, if you want something and you are on the slave ship and you have a captain of the ship who knows that ship, every part of the ship, knows everything about the crew, knows everything about the cargo on the ship. Now, look at it this way. It's logical. If you have a serious problem and you are a person, particularly the cargo on that slave ship, because you are the cargo, but as cargo, you have a problem sustaining yourself. Isn't it logical to go to the captain if you really want that problem resolved and not overruled by anybody? See, talking to one of the fellow slaves, it might get you a little something. It might, and it might not. Most likely to get you an argument, okay? Because that fellow slave is a fellow slave.
Mm-hmm.
They can only go so far to help you, all right? Crew members, okay, who are white, but not white supremacists, which that would be a stretch, because if they're a member of the crew, most likely they are white supremacists. But then you find out the white supremacist who tells the other white supremacists what to do. Now you're really moving, okay? And that's what you should always try to do.
Mm-hmm.
In every circumstance, on jobs and everything else. Oh, yeah, black people will come around and say this and say that. Some of them will try to help you. Some of them will try to keep you down and all like that. But you don't get, frustrated by that. At some point, try to figure out, like Andy Dufresne did in the movie Shawshank Redemption, try to figure out somewhere in this chain are some white people. Because white people who are white supremacists run the entire planet. So the closer I get to them, and the more I can get them to agree with my point of view on something that I want to get, the more power I will have. Why? Because I'm a slave on a slave ship called the system of white supremacy, and so the person who makes the final decision about me being on the ship, or whether or not I can even breathe, or whether or not I'll be thrown overboard. Isn't it logical that I would want to talk to that person if I wanted something, rather than talk to all these other people, milling around here and bumping into each other? I don't have to talk to them about nothing.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Fuller, guess what? Our time has come to an end for this particular program. So thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Talktainment Radio. Talktainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio, radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. You got the power. The world.